Hi, my name's Guy Curtis, and this is my presentation for AusPlat recording that I hope to be able to present live. My presentation is about a study that I conducted with my colleagues around Australia looking at the prevalence of commercial contract cheating, and I'll get straight into it so I can define terms and get you up to speed. Okay. Nice, that click forward. Right, okay. So commercial contract cheating, what is it? Contract cheating is where people outsource their assignment work as a student to other people to do. Commercially, this is where they pay for it. So this would be students paying for ghostwriters from internet sites, for example, to write their assignments for them. It's a particular problem for higher education because if people have submitting assignments that have been completed by other people, then obviously they're not fulfilling the requirements of their course demonstrating that they meet the learning outcomes because someone else is doing that for them. This can be, of course, a very big problem when people need to confirm that they've actually got skills and knowledge that you need them to have. When you think about something like studying psychology, where we typically use now a competency-based model under the new APAC criteria, you might have people not demonstrating their competencies if their assessment work is done by someone else. The Tertiary Education Quality Standards Agency, or TEQSA, have been trying to do a lot about commercial contract cheating, including there's some legislation where they're able to prosecute commercial contract cheating providers, websites, and so on. Now, the prevalence of commercial contract cheating is something that's a bit hard to determine. There have been some scandals in Australia, like the My Master case, where there were over 1,000 assignments and receipts for assignments that were discovered by journalists. But even if you look at the 5 most affected universities in that scandal, the number of cases only accounts for 0.17% of their students, and that's assuming that each student was a unique case, or each order was from a unique student, I should say, and that wasn't even the case. Many students were placing multiple orders. Okay, so the detection is quite low, and University of New South Wales, where they increased their detection by using better methods of figuring out and substantiating cases of commercial contract cheating, their increased detection only accounted for 0.27% of their students. From self-report studies, we've seen much higher rates of commercial contract cheating reported by students. So around about 3.5% in some meta-analysis systematic reviews. A large study of Australian students, 2.2% of students admitted submitting work that was completed by someone else. And that wasn't necessarily commercial contract cheating. That could have been contract cheating that was work completed by a family member, for example. So these figures here, say 2 to 3.5%, are figures that are substantially more than what's been detected in even the most widely reported scandals of contract cheating, but the objective detection is much less than the self-report. Of course, as psychology researchers, one of the things that we know is anonymous self-report surveys. People can underreport whether they engage in sensitive kinds of behaviour, and doing something like cheating at university is a fairly sensitive kind of behaviour. So this is where I'm getting to next. The problems with self-reports of sensitive behaviour, embarrassing behaviour, even when anonymous, is we know that people tend to underreport these things. People might worry that the surveys aren't truly anonymous. People might be or feel embarrassed or feel that the questions are intrusive and they shouldn't answer them. People may self-deceive in reporting bad behaviour, so they may, in fact, not report bad behaviour when it occurs. And they're not given an incentive to tell the truth in typical self-report surveys. A possible solution to some of these problems is the Bayesian Truth Serum methodology combined with a truth-telling incentive. And I'll give you an explanation of what that is. The Bayesian Truth Serum incentivised truth-telling methodology, which was developed by Prelick and others, starts with this thing called the Bayesian Truth Serum, which is a complex mathematical method of determining the informativeness of answers. Survey participants are asked not just whether they do something, but also how frequently they think other people do it and how much they think other people who do the behaviour would admit to it. All of those things are put into a formula to determine the informativeness of answers. Now, combining this with incentivised truth-telling, survey participants are told in advance of answering the questions that the Bayesian Truth Serum will be used to assess the truthfulness of their answers, and survey participants are told that the truthfulness of their answers will be linked to some kind of incentive. So as a study that demonstrates this, John et al. Surveyed around 2,000 research psychologists. All participants nominated a favourite charity from a list, and then half of them were told about the Bayesian Truth Serum and that the truthfulness of their answers would be linked to the donations to their preferred charity. In that study, the researchers who had the Bayesian Truth Serum instructions reported 2.75 times more data falsification. As we know, data falsification is a particularly serious form of research misconduct. So having a methodology that leads people to report more of it is something that seems to, on its face, indicate that the methodology in fact works. So in our study, what we did was we surveyed students from 6 universities and 6 higher education, independent higher education providers. We promoted the survey as best we could electronically via email, learning management systems, newsletters, websites, whatever the universities and higher education providers would allow us to do and give us support to do. We had a $500 prize draw per institution as a general incentive for people to participate. And we also told all participants that there would be a charitable donation made on their behalf for participating in the survey. We had 4,098 complete responses to this survey, and people were randomly assigned to a survey as usual or a Bayesian Truth Serum condition. So in the Bayesian Truth Serum condition, if I just go back, that's all right, I can go forward to do that. The participants were told that the truthfulness of their answers was linked to the donations that would be made to their choice of charities. So the order of the survey was we first collected demographic data, then we asked students to nominate their charity, then half the participants were randomly given the Bayesian Truth Serum instructions. They couldn't proceed in the survey until they indicated that they understood the instructions, and we even gave them a link to the Prelick paper in Science to say this is the methodology we're using if you really want to look it up. So it was completely truthful. We did in fact adjust charitable donations based on the truthfulness of answers for that half of the participants. Then we gave them an explanation of commercial contract cheating in the form of custom ghostwriting. So someone writing or paying for someone else to write their assignment for them. We then asked the participants to estimate the percentage of students who would engage in custom ghostwriting and submit an assignment of that kind, the percentage who would admit to doing so, who actually did it, and asked the students if they had ever done it. And if they had done it, we asked them if they'd done it in the last 12 months. Then we presented the same questions, but for the situation where a student had obtained an assignment from a file sharing site, like Course Hero, for example, and edited that. Admission was that participants in the Bayesian Truth Serum condition admitted to submitting custom ghostwritten assignments at a rate of almost 2.5 times more than participants in the control condition, which was significant and nearly significantly more in the last 12 months. For file sharing, having ever done this, it was quite close between the two conditions, but it was significantly more in the last 12 months for the Bayesian Truth Serum group. who admitted to doing this more than 2 times as often, or more than 2 times as many people admitted to doing this, I should say, as the control condition. Looking at demographic data and just looking straight out at admission to engaging in various kinds of commercial contract cheating, the main and first predictor of admitting to engaging in commercial contract cheating was having a first language other than English. So for people with English as a first language, 0.8% admitted to buying and submitting a custom ghostwritten assignment. It was 2.6% for people who had English as a second or subsequent language. And the results were also 3 times higher for submitting assignments from file sharing sites. Now, the Bayesian Truth Serum methodology gives a way of estimating the prevalence of behaviour where the true population incidence is not known, which combines the self-reported admission, divided by what people estimate as the percentage of people who would admit to something who had in fact done it, and the peer prevalence estimate, which is basically what percentage of students, other students think do this. And then taking those 3 estimates, we calculate the geometric mean, which allows more for outliers than the arithmetic mean by being the mean of products. What we get throwing all this in together is that approximately 7.9% of students we would think submit assignments that are not written by themselves but custom written by someone else, and 11.4% of students submit an assignment that has been obtained from a file sharing site. Now, these are the figures for ever having done it. So this is not a per set of assignments in any particular unit. This is a maybe 1 in 10 students roughly ever do this stuff ever in the course of their studies. Okay, so the self-reports for commercial contract cheating in our study with the essentially the control group, the survey as usual group, were very similar to other contract cheating surveys. About 3.5% of students admitted to doing one or both of the 2 behaviours that we looked at. However, the incentivised truth telling suggests that the previous self-report are below the true figure because they were mostly higher and significantly so in some cases. So using the formula that are used that include the impersonal estimates of how many other people do it and how many people who do it would admit to it, as well as the incentivized self-reports, we come up with fairly conservative estimates of 7.9 to 11.4% of students engaging in these behaviours, which are roughly 2 to 4 times higher than previous self-report estimates of engagement in commercial contract cheating, which is quite substantially more and a little bit scary. So what can we do about commercial contract cheating? We can block commercial contract cheating sites at our institutions. So when students are looking up, say, essay help, the first legitimate sites they can actually access are ones with legitimate information, not ones selling them ghostwriting services. We can block these at a national level if TEXA gets on to prosecuting them, and these things can be reported to TEXA. We can ensure English standards for admission and support students who have English as an additional language, and we can educate staff and students around contract cheating, including particularly educating staff in how to detect it. All of these things will help, and TEXA have some great guidance around contract cheating and how to at least begin to help to address it. As a good academic integrity researcher, I've got my references here, but including the fact that the study that I've talked about has recently been accepted for publication and can now be viewed in full online if you're interested in reading it. The press have already picked this up and put some sensational headlines on it. Less sensationally, in general, it's a scary prospect that a lot of students cheat, but there are things that we can do about it if we're willing to put in the time and effort. And then that gives me time for questions where hopefully the recording can now be stopped and we can pick up in real life